record. Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for attending. Appreciate you guys, or everybody watching, and all the people who are going to watch this later. We have, right now, we have, looking at the schedule, still have a pretty good, got people lined up, several several sessions out. Just coming up, looking at the schedule. So we have this week with Lee Nicholas. In 2 weeks, we're going to do an open Q&A forum. We've been doing those about once a quarter just to mix things up. That's also the same week as Christmas, so I figure we may have a few less people, but we always get lots of good questions. So if you have any questions or discussion topics, you can email them to me, editor@opsig.org, and in advance. The next session after that will be January 3rd. Bruce Morden and Matt Thompson have both agreed to present. Beyond that, I don't have anybody lined up. So if you're interested in presenting on an operations topic, you can either do half the session, so roughly 20 to 25 minutes, or if you've got lots to talk about, you can have the whole hour. We've been doing a mix of, we've been doing a mix lately. So I'm happy to talk with you about what you want to present. We've got a really good variety of topics. I'd like to keep that going. Obviously, there's interest. We're at 95 people right now, which means we'll probably fill up here in a matter of minutes.
Eric, I want to tell you, thank you very much from being a beginner. I've learned so much over the year since you've been doing this.
Well, like I said, I think we've had lots of good presenters. So before we get going, Tom, and I'm going to butcher your name, Tom Ciara, wanted to talk about an upcoming convention. So Tom, if you're out there, let me mute everybody, and then I'll let you present.
Great, thank you, Eric.
Yep, hold on. Oop. Tom, go ahead and let me put you on the spotlight here.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Eric. I really appreciate it. So, Eric, first of all, thank you for your hosting of the operating Zooms. Much appreciated. So just really quickly, I'd like to, let's see if I can do a share screen. This is just a very brief promo for the Sugar Pine Centennial, and I'm going to do a share screen here. So let's see, here we go. All right. So coming up, April 22nd through the 24th is the annual PCR convention, and this is going to be taking place in Fresno, California, April 22nd through 24th of next year. So this is going to be a convention which will have plenty of events scheduled, including contests, clinics, swap meet, layout tours, and operating sessions. Plus, there will be excursions to the Hillcrest and Wautoki 5-inch scale railroad and the Yosemite Mount Sugar Pine Railroad. Now, as an incentive to register, there's going to be drawings for cab rides of the Yosemite Mount Sugar Pine Railroad Shay. You'll actually get a chance to operate the locomotive. And also there will be an opportunity to operate a live steam engine at the Hillcrest and Wautoki Railroad. So there's also going to be one big drawing, and that is for a free excursion ticket on the Yosemite Mount Sugar Pine Railroad, including a ride, dinner, a cab ride, a $95 value. And these are open to everyone who registers by December 31st. Now, one note, that is, since we don't know what the state's restrictions are going to be on hotels and excursions and so on, your registration fees, if you register, will be cheerfully refunded. Well, forget cheerfully, they'll be refunded. So either way, you don't have to worry about that. Now, of special interest to our group will be layout tours and operating sessions. So shown here is a partial list of the railroads that will be available for touring and for operations. We're expecting to have about probably 5 to 6 more model railroads available for tours and for operating sessions over the 3 days of the convention. And let's see if I can just get to my last screen. Anyway, so that's about it. So any questions, please get a look at the Sugar Pine Centennial website. And let's see, here's the header.
I dropped a link in the chat for the website for you, Tom.
Great. Okay, so it's going to be a great time. So any questions, you can shoot it to any of the members of the committee. So again, this is coming up April 22nd through 24th, and it should be a great time. So thank you very much, Eric. So back to you.
All righty. Thanks, Tom. Hope you're able to pull it off, but California's got even more restrictions than everybody else. I hope things turn around. It's getting a little tired of not being able to do anything. So
10-4 on that. And again, Eric, thank you for allowing us this little promo. Appreciate it.
of course, absolutely. All right. So we're gonna switch over to Lee, and where's the button here? I'm gonna get Lee off of mute here in just a second. Just gotta find it. All right, Lee, if you can hear me, you need to go ahead and unmute yourself. You have permission. There you go.
All right, I got to get this into slide mode here. So I think what I do is we'll do a slideshow. Got a few slides to show here, and then I think I have to do a reverse here or something.
Actually, it looks fine here. So
can you see the slideshow, or are you seeing this part right here?
I'm seeing the sort of the presenter view here with the main
Notes.
slide to the left. And
Okay, let me see if this works. Hang on just a second. I think I have to do like a reverse thing here. How's that? Can you see that?
yeah.
Okay, because I got my stuff here on the other screen. So, okay, anyway, I'm glad to be back. I think it was the end of October when I presented last, and kind of ran out of time. I think I had more than the time allotted, which was not Eric's fault. I just had too much stuff to talk about, I guess. So what I want to do today is, the last time I focused on our staging and the mole and whatnot, and I'll do a little bit of summary there as we get into this. But I thought today what I'd do is take you on a quick tour of what the rest of the railroad looks like for those who haven't been here and those who've been here but haven't been in a while. So anyway, we'll start here. I do a freelance railroad, the Utah Colorado Western. Many years ago when I started in the hobby, I had 3 favorite prototypes, and there was just no way I could pick one of them. So I said, to heck with it, and started my own. And I'm glad I did. It's given me some freedom that I've enjoyed, but I have tried to stay as close as I can to, prototype fidelity. We travel from, can you see my cursor here? I'm not sure what.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so we travel from Salt Lake to Denver. Basically, what I chose was the old DNSL line that was supposed to come out and go through kind of central Utah there, and that was kind of our route to get into to Denver. Track plan as it works today is the main part of the railroad is here. I've lived in this house my entire life. It's where I grew up. I bought this house from my parents. We live on a small farm here in Crane, Utah. I don't farm anymore. I lease it out. But I've literally had a layout in this basement since probably 5 years old. So close to 70 years. The house is almost 100 years old now. So, and it's showing its age a little bit. A few years ago, 2013, I decided to to move an area down here, I wanted to put an agent job on the layout, and I'll get into that a little later. And I had my workbench was here, and we had a small dispatcher office. So I wanted to enlarge this, and I had to dig out some dirt to do that. And in the process of doing that, I realized that the mole was back here and the Salt Lake side come around right here. And I realized I could sever the line right there and run it down in here into a new mole staging and come out and come back this way. And the only fear I had from that was that as we leave East Yard up here, we actually go down 3 walls of the basement here, most of it, some of it hidden, and come back. And I thought maybe the run would mess up the operation, but it has not been an issue at all. In fact, it's been a blessing, to be honest with you. Years ago, we put out timetables. These are really to do, but they're a bitch to keep up. And I know it's behind. Maybe someday, before I croak, we might make a revision to that. Oh, and by the way, let me just say one thing, that we're going to get into a piece of software who we've developed here in the last 4 years. We're really proud of it. And the brains behind the whole thing, Chris Kleiner, he's logged on here with us, and our guinea pig to do most of the beta testing is Henry Freeman, and Henry's on here as well. So maybe Eric, if they need to chime in, we can unmute those guys or something if that's possible.
Sure. One quick thing is, I think you've got right now a bunch of the screen is getting cut off at the bottom on the Zoom window.
Really?
Hold on a second. Let me see.
What am I doing wrong?
Well, let me see if it's my thing
I can't
here.
do anything here, I don't think.
Okay, hold on.
Apologize for that. You know, I could actually stop this part of it. Well, I can't. I got some graphics in here, so. How much is cut off, Eric?
Well, like on the current slide, I can see the engine at the top. Then I can see the text. It says derived from my 3 favorite railroads, and then basically just very tops of the pictures.
Okay, well, let's go on. It might be because I've got too much jammed on this thing, okay?
Okay, so it's bigger than a normal screen.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
So anyway,
I'll tell you what, if you can send me your slides after the fact, I'll put those up on the web and people can look at them after the presentation.
Okay, I appreciate that. Anyway, I've been asked over the years how I come up with my paint scheme, and it really is a combination of my 3 favorite railroads as growing up out here. And of course, one of them is not the UP, which runs through my little town of Corinne here. And I do have one thing at the top of my farm right now. The original Transcontinental Railroad, the Central Pacific, runs through the old grade right through the top of my farm. So that's been probably one of the things that got me into the hobby when I was a kid. Anyway, my 3 favorite railroads, one was the Utah Railway, the other was the SP, and my great love was the Rio Grande. So what I did is the body of the engines are SP Dark Lark, and the red stripe around here, the band, is from the Utah Railway, and the tiger stripes on the front, although red, those come from the Rio Grande. So I was able to incorporate my 3 favorite railroads into my paint scheme. By the way, if you guys got any questions, sing out. I'll answer as we go.
Yeah, if you have, just a quick note, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat window and we'll go through them when you're done, Lee.
Yeah. That'd be great. What I'd like to do, Eric, is I'm going to get through the slideshow. Maybe we'll take a few questions and then I'll go into the software part of it.
Okay, that's perfectly fine. Just let me know.
All right. You know, we all worry about the youngsters coming into our hobby, and I have the great fortune of having some great grandkids right now that live close to me. And Weston right here, you see in this picture, this is taken a few years ago. He's 10 years old now, but he's had a love of trains since he was a little tot. He used to sit on my lap and we'd go through it on YouTube and look at stuff, and he'd come down and he started in this, and he still loves it today. He actually has a business on the railroad called Weston Petroleum and Construction, and you can see maybe down here in the left corner or the right corner, he's got his construction stuff down there, and I can tell you right now that it's scattered all over the layout. But we started him young, and I hope that we pique some interest there for these kids in the future. If nothing else, when Grandpa croaks, he can have the house and keep the trains alive. Anyway, behind one thing that we've done with the new mole now is that behind our door here that we could shut to the office is what I call the UCW operations department. And behind that are the dispatcher, the mole, and the agent are all located right next to each other, so that those guys really make the railroad sing, and they communicate a lot in op sessions. And it's really been a blessing to have that, because these guys make the decisions on how the railroad runs, and they do a great job. I got a great crew. One thing I wanted to show you is that model railroading is not always fun and exciting. A couple of years ago, I embarked on a process of cleaning up the wiring in my CTC machine, and took about almost 2 weeks plugging at it, and stripped everything out and relocated how I put in the IO boards and cleaned it all up. And this picture down here, if you can see, is what it looks like today. I'm telling you, it's been a blessing, especially when you have to troubleshoot things. And you know, it's interesting. I haven't had a session since last October, like most of you, and I didn't turn on this CTC machine since then. I haven't turned it on. And 2 weeks ago, Dayland in the picture here come up, and we fired it up, and it snorted, and it didn't want to play, but a couple hours and we had it running again. Most of it was reseating all the boards. A shout out to Seth. I think he's with us here, but I went from an old kludged up thing that was Bruce Chubb's board and a telephone system that worked okay, but we since went into Seth's hardware and his networks out in the field. And I tell you, if you guys are going to put this in, don't even hesitate to go to him. This stuff is absolutely top notch. A few years ago, I switched control systems. I was with Rail Links, which was an infrared line of sight system for 25 years. Was actually probably almost a founder of that with Jerry Bellina. I was his first customer, and I assembled all the throttles out here for him. But I looked at RailPro when it first come on the market, and it was a little too expensive for what I wanted to do, and their modules were, I thought, too big to fit in most engines. But I kept in touch with it, and the reason I gravitate to RailPro is because it's the same process as Rail Links, except it's radio control versus line of sight, and I'm all for that. I don't like. I was with Dynatrol for many years, and signal in the rails with that system just turned me off to this, and so. But we're able to enjoy the RailPro. I love this system. It's great. Basically 3 components, mostly is a locomotive module and a throttle and a power supply over here. The power supply is also your repeater for any radio signal that you need out there. With Rail Links, it was easy to change batteries. They're 4 AA's. You pop them out, put new ones in. And with this one, you have to charge them. So that was kind of new to me. So we built this charging station where you can plug the throttles in, and then I got a timer over here, and they're basically 3, I think AA rechargeable batteries in there. So I come down about once a month and flip the charger on for 4 hours, and it'll time out and charge the fleet for me. Assembly of modules. I thought when I left Rail Links, and I've literally over the years probably put in at least 2,000 of these damn decoders over the years, and for customers. And I thought when I went to RailPro, I wouldn't have to do that anymore. And Mr. Loader from Salem, Oregon, wanted me to do his fleet.'s got close to 400 engines, and I've done 265 of them so far. So between the two of us and others, I've done over 400 installs for Rail Pro now. So I'm getting pretty good at it. The other thing I added, if you guys know Jim Ferentz out of Colorado, Boulder Creek Engineering, he came up with this cool scale, and I'm sure some of you have that. And I thought I got to have one of those suckers, and didn't have a place to put it, so I mounted it in the top of the silo here. It's kind of like a billboard, but the crews, we got a scale house right here, and their job is to come in and weigh the grain cars and do all that kind of stuff. Busy work, but it's fun. I'm going to start a tour now here. We'll look at the UCW, which is basically the red line of the railroad. Just a little note, right here where this Tres Pinos comes in, for 25 years, that was a stub end yard. We were always going to punch a hole through and put a reverse loop under the house and come back. And that never happened. But with this dig in 2013, that became a reality now, so that we could actually model the CB&Q and this interchange here with Casper. This is where we leave Salt Lake going out eastbound towards Denver. We have traffic levers here so that you set the traffic lever for the direction you want, and that beeps and flashes on the dispatcher panel. And when he's ready for you, he'll line the knobs up so you're in correspondence, and then he'll flip a signal here to green and you can leave. So it works great. And really, this is short runs, about 8 feet before you hit the railroad. This is the long jump from East Yard as you travel around here. And so we have detection all the way in here so we can keep up with the trains. So when we enter eastbound, we come to Flanagan here as the first part of the railroad. It's a lot of heavy industrial switching. There's a job here called the Flanagan Flyer, and he works all the industries here. There's a yard in here that we interchange with. We set out pickup blocks, not an interchange, but actually setting out blocks and picking up blocks from here. We travel down here. This is the other end, looking back the other way. So there's a lot going on in here. I'm surprised Weston doesn't have all of his construction stuff over here. We round the bend, we come into Watercress. Watercress is I love this job. I don't get to run it much, but it is a fun job. At one end, we have Delaney Milling, and then we have this big facility right here, which is called Craptex. I don't know if I want to go into the story how we come up with Craptex. All I can say is Steve Karras was behind the name Craptex and Ron Roberts. So, but it's a great facility. We do a lot of stuff here. We haul a lot of sludge in there for whatever they make. This is our helper division. So everything going from here around is about a 2% grade going up to Sachin. So we've got our helper pocket right here. The other end, we have Johnson Packing. So there's livestock coming here. There's several moves places on the railroad. They all happen right here at Watercress, but we have some lower stock pens here. So we'll set the cars out there. We'll unload the livestock and let them feed water and whatnot. And then they move from here up to the upper pens right there where they're offloaded to go into processing. And then from here, we move the cars over to a track over here for clean out. And then once they're done in clean out, we pick them up and haul them off. Same thing with the reefers. We have an ice plant here. So we're pulling in reefers and icing them up, and then they go over to the processing plant and haul out the swinging beef there. As we complete we continue with the tour here, we come to Crucero. Crucero has no indust or anything. It's just a big old curve around the end of the room here. And so it's just a main and a siding. So here we are at the west end coming in, and here's the east end. We're headed out. And just so you guys know, this signal right now is laying on the side right here. I did a big remodel in the basement last spring, and when I was cleaning up, I hit that signal right there dead on with the vacuum cleaner. And I pulled this thing out about 4 months ago and fixed it, but I've never put it back in. That's not me, but it's COVID. As we leave Crucero, we come between Crucero and Sagehen. There's some intermediate signals here, and then then we enter into Sagehen here on a slow order. From there, we go down to the center switch, which is basically a double crossover. And off to the side, we'll get to this. This is Clayton Yard. This is the CB&Q. And this is Jig's area now. This has changed from long ago because the mole used to sit here. And so this was bumped out like 48 inches, and it was cramped, and never could get the yard to do what I wanted. And we finally pulled that off here. I apologize, because right here's the sugar plant, the beet plant, and I don't even have a picture of the damn thing. So anyway, we go to Castlegate. This is another crossover, double crossover at the other end of this long double track that we have starting at Sagehen. And here's a sugar beet train pulling in. This is the beet lead here. So he'll come down and back in here and set up the empties, pick up the loads for the sugar plant. Yeah, there are screws right there. These are sheetrock screws. This is a foam base, and I just screwed them in there because these loads are popped in and out all the time. So we have a magnet and can pop them out. But, you know, it's just a weird looking sugar beet. From there, we go around to Iron Point. We have, this is the CB&Q down here, UCW up here. From Iron Point, we travel around. We're crossing right here. This is Iron Point. We're leaving there, and this is the CB&Q. So we cross over the CB&Q main at this point right here. From there, we go to West Hamilton. And by the way, if you like the backdrops here, there's a few. Robbie Spangler, I'm sure many of you know Rob is the artist behind all this stuff, and he's top notch when it comes to doing painted backdrops from all the railroads. We come into West Hamilton, and the other end, which used to be East Hamilton, is now called Ute Junction because the CB&Q comes right here, and there's joint trackage from here around through East Yard and down into Denver with the CB&Q. So that's a busy place right there. We come into the Shasta Depot. This is the end of CTC. We're now headed into East Yard. This is our portion of Denver where the UCW has a yard there. And we run a train, we call them transfers. They're basically, I guess, like a harbor belt where they go around all the railroads in Denver and bring the interchange cars and so forth and so on. So the transfer is what mainly feeds this yard for us. And then, again, this is the yard itself. This ice deck in here has just been a display for years, but I think that's on the bucket list right now to put a siding in there. And we've got a plan to bring our reefers in there and ice them up on the road. So we'll see how that comes off. Then we come around, and here's the engine facility for the UCW. And then we go down and this little hole right, this tunnel right here. And that's the three walls of the basement that's heading towards Denver. And then the train here, as it leaves, it arrives over here at Denver. So it's coming in left here, comes back here, and you can see it's lit up. So this detection is very valuable to us because we can watch the trains. Plus, I have 4 cameras in here too, so we can watch the progress as this thing travels around. Next, we'll do a CB&Q tour here. That's the blue line. Years ago, that used to be called the old main for the UCW. We could never really operate the thing because it was like parallel track for the same railroad. It never really made any sense. But when we put the mole in, this mole back here, we had a presence with the CB&Q. It came up this far right here, and then there was a tunnel, and it went over this side behind the view block and went back into staging. So the CB&Q was only this long, and we've extended it over here. My crew rebelled because most of them are UCW employees, and when we incorporated the CB&Q, they took a lot of our switching district. They own all the mines now, and they got Hamilton down here and this and here. So my crew was ready to revolt and leave, but Most of them work for the CB&Q now, so we're okay. This is departing Casper. We're headed into the visual part of the layout, which is what we call Tres Pinos. And there's a yard up here. This is where the Hamilton Dodger assembles his train. We interchange here with him. There's two CB&Q trains that run on the schedule, one eastbound, one westbound, and they interchange at this yard. They drop cars there and for the local, and then they'll pick up Casper's going this way or Denver's going the other way. This is Shin Oil over here. Just so you know, I got to show you one little thing here. This is just me reminiscing. This building right here is a building that's probably the oldest structure I've had in my career model railroading. And Pat Bray built that for me many, many years ago. And we had it on, this is like the 5th layout now, and it was painted yellow, just a standard depot. But Chris Brimley from Exact Rail built my sugar plant, and he's built all of the CB&Q depots for me. But I told him, leave this one, I'll paint it white, and we'll leave it on the railroad because it's really the oldest structure I have. As we leave the yard, we're going down around the curve here. Now, underneath this is the east wall of the basement. So underneath here is this is the hidden track that goes into Denver. So we come to Uinta Mining here. It's the first thing that we hit. Then we continue on down through Lone Pine. This is Lone Pine Depot. This is a CB&Q. This is one that Chris Brimley built for me. This line is all ABS. The UCW is all CTC. So we decided to make this one into ABS. And these are the signals from Details West. And man, those guys, that guy did a great job. I think his name's Joe. I can't remember his last name, but these things are exquisite. Next mine is Bearber Mining. So lots of coal traffic in and out of there, kind of like down in the Price area for us. Carbon Fuel is just around the corner from there. And then we come into Clayton Yard. Clayton Yard, man, I was trying to squeeze in one more track if I could. It would have been nice because this is really supposed to be a passing siding, but it's become part of a yard track now. And we don't do a lot of meets in here, although we can clear up and meet in any of these tracks. But it's either going down or up, and we very seldom meet a train in here. But this has become such a focal point for the railroad because we do live interchange between the CB&Q and the UCW. And every session, there's a number of trains that stop in here and work. Of course, this is the double crossover at the center switch, and that's Weston Petroleum over there. Now you get a sense of Robbie's backdrop paintings back here. The guy's a master. He's just great. And this is the depot over at Jigs. This is the CB&Q depot. We then continue down. He has a mine here called Castlegate that we have to take care of. And really, we have a dedicated mine runs called the Clinker. And he runs out and he'll deliver empty cars and pick up loads at the mines. And then he'll run into staging and with an empty or the full train. And his job is to take all the loads out. And during the session, he'll go back in and fill up all the cars at the tipple. So I don't have to do it between sessions. A little town of Cobray here. This is probably even an older structure now that I look at it than the depot. If you guys remember the old metal Sitem kits that you have to solder together, I'm sure a lot of you guys will remember those. Well, that's 2 Sitem kits that I probably bought those when I first got in the hobby, and they've been repurposed several times, and now they're Bray fabrication and storage. Builders of useless stuff is what he makes. Then we come in to Hamilton, and this is the Hamilton Dodger switches this. Again, this is the CB&Q. This is just pretty steep grade here, but we cross up past Portland Cement and over the UCW main here, and then he switches to town of Hamilton. And that's a turn that goes back and ends up back in Tres Pinos. That's the Hamilton Dodger. And on the way back, he sets out all of his Salt Lake cars at Clayton Yard that he's picked up so that we can pick them up and haul them into Salt Lake. And then we come to joint trackage here between CB&Q and the UCW. And yes, our dispatcher is very friendly of letting these guys on the line anytime they want. I think. I don't know. I'm just assuming that. And then I've got a few pictures here of an op session, probably the last one I had with my crew last year, because we took a couple of months off before the national convention. So I really think this might have been our last session as a crew together. One thing, just threw this picture in, every once in a while, we got some issues that happen on the railroad. We get a rock slide. This boulder rolls down the mountainside here, and underneath the fascia right here, there's a hidden toggle switch. And somebody can set that boulder on. Not many people know this, but the guys that do will set that boulder on the track, and you flip that switch up and it'll light up this detector and take that out of service. So the dispatcher's now down a siding at Crucero, which is one of the longer ones for meets. So here we've pulled out the work train out of the mole. He's come out and they take the boulder and put her back up where she goes and turn the switch off, and we're ready to go. A couple of my guys, Pat Bray, Pat's a career railroader, retired off the UP, and he's my go-to guy. I've known Pat since the 70s when he moved from California up here when he was working for the SP, and we've been good buds ever since. We've done a lot of things together. This is kind of his favorite job. He likes to run Likely Tower. Likely Tower handles all the in and outbound traffic through East Yard, which is his tower here. He also is a crew caller, and he has a small local that he has to run around here to take care of. So it's a fun job. It's one of the key jobs on the railroad. Between that and the dispatcher, if I got two good guys there, I don't have to worry about the railroad running. Whoops, I forgot to show one slide here. This is Jeff Weymouth. Everybody worries about if they're going to get a mole operator. I've never had that problem ever. Any of my guys will volunteer to go back there, but Jeff, for some reason, he claimed that territory. So he's our permanent mole guy now, and he does an excellent job. He just knows how to put things together. He loves building trains and doing all that kind of work. So Jeff's the guy. A couple of my old long-time guys, Kent Bankhead, I've known for many years, has been a buddy. This is Rob Spangler right here. He's the guy that does all the backdrops. And I've known Robbie, I think Robbie's just a year younger than my oldest son, so he's like 52. His mother would bring him up when he was 12 years old and drop him off on a Saturday, and I would babysit him for most of the day, and he'd follow me around as I was working on the railroad. So I've known Rob for many years. We're good friends, and he's been so helpful to me on the railroad. Oops, did I miss a slide? I think I did. Hang on. I missed something. Oh, Brian Brendel. Brian's new to the area. He came from, I think, Virginia. He was like a fire chief back there. And maybe some of you know Brian. He moved out here. He lives up the Weber Canyon a ways up in Mountain Green. Nice guy. And he was running our Clayton Yard. He was Clayton Yard master for the day. Dalen Spears, my right hand, he's really helped me in the last few years. As I get older, he's helping me with the CTC and keeping everything going there. He's a dang good kid. And of course, this is the lounge where we all congregate, and this is always loaded full of food. I had one slide I couldn't find that I used to present, and I would show four guys standing out in the aisle at Flanagan trying to meet each other. And then I'd pop this slide up and it would show all this food sitting there. And I said, that's why we can't meet in the aisles anymore, because we all eat this damn food during off sessions. That's part of it. Of course, Boyer over here, Boyer's getting old. And so he was just getting ready to lay down and take a snooze for the day. Actually, I think he was looking at something down there, but I don't know what it was. Phil Harton, he's a part-time operator. He lives in Idaho Falls, so it's a 2.5 hour drive for him, but he loves to come down and operate. And then my buddy Greg Cudworth, he likes to run East Yard, and he's been with me for 20 some odd years now. So good crew. Okay, any questions to this point? This is the end of the tour of the layout. I don't know if you got any, Eric, or what's going on there.
Yeah, there's let's see. Bert Stewart asks, you mentioned that the track to staging be around you mentioned that the track to staging being all around 3 walls has been a blessing. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, it's because it gives us a little time. Before, it was a very short run from East Yard down to the mole, and so you could jam up the mole pretty easy. And now it takes probably maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes, if that, to get around there. So the guys they can coordinate this, and then the mole know he's got a little time to prepare things. So yeah, it's been kind of a blessing in disguise from that reason. But it's not totally hidden. I mean, I can get to it, and down the south wall of the basement, the north wall of the basement, a good portion of it's exposed. So it's only hidden really on the east end of the basement. Anything else?
A couple comments from Dave Cookson says, nice looking layout. Seth Newman said the Hamilton Dodger is one of the best jobs in model railroading. Dennis, whoever Dennis is, asked who made the cantilever signal bridges.
Overland.
Okay.
Those are all the. Go ahead.
It said Overland made them.
Overland models, and I think they are modeled after I think they were Santa Fe. But anyway.
And Ross Kudlik said he was a battalion chief in Fairfax County, Virginia, which is funny because Fairfax County, Virginia is where I first became an EMT. So that's kind of funny. Other than that, that's all the questions so far.
Okay.
So.
All right. We'll move on then, because I want to spend some time on our software. So one thing, and what I'm going to explain here is how we ended up with what we call active staging, which I use today. And of course, we counter that with what we call passive staging, where you have hidden storage facility or tracks at each end of your railroad. And a lot of times they're hidden. You can't get to them. It's hard to move the cars around. You can't fiddle the cars and stuff. In most of them, I'm not saying you can't, but it's more difficult. So we actually chose to take the 2 forks and we joined them together like this. And so in the middle of that now, we have our active staging, and the railroad's just a big loop. In fact, if you start here at Salt Lake and we travel all the way around the layout, it just comes back right here, and the loop's right here. There's no reverse loops. It's just a big loop. And we run it as a point-to-point layout. And the only thing that I have back in these loops right here are pre-made coal trains. So they can run out really at any time on the railroad. If we got crews standing around, they want a train, we can throw those out there and let them run that and enjoy the signals and whatnot. There's also a sugar beet train in there that's stored to come out. So that was one of the main reasons why we went to this. Now, the old mole, I don't know how many of you saw the last presentation, but I don't have a slide here. Originally, I had no staging on the railroad. In the early 90s, a trip to Kansas City convinced me I need to have that on the railroad. So I come home and I engineered those 2 double-deck staging inside of the peninsula in the center of the room, and found out after about 3 sessions that wasn't going to work. So we stuck an operator inside of the reverse loops down there, and because we couldn't see him, we called him the Mole. And I have no idea, but that name is stuck to this day. You'll see it in articles and whatnot. It says Mole Staging, and I doubt most people know where that come from, but that's where it started. Anyway, with that type of staging, my very dear friend Kelly Newton, and I think a lot of you on here that's been out here will remember Kelly. We lost Kelly in 2014. He was just my right-hand guy. I miss him dearly even to this day. And and he had a great mind for operating and stuff. And he and his brother were N-scalers, and they'd come up with this idea of using what we call active staging today, where you have a real-time operator. So he come up one day, and we got the tape measure out, and we started measuring, and it required a major teardown on the railroad to put the mole in, but we got it in. And over the years, right now, there's very little, if any, staging for us. In fact, I don't have to do any staging of cars at all. My mole takes care of building the trains, and then I have two sets of drawers, so that as we empty one set, he's filling that for the next trick beyond that. I always got two tricks in the drawers, so I don't have to stage any cars, and I don't have to build any trains between sessions. It's an automatic thing now. Cars are available for new Weibull assignments when they complete their journey, and that's great, because they come in, they're done, they go on the shelf, and now we can choose any car we want and assign them to a Weibull, and off we go. It supports continuous operation. Literally, we've run up here for 14 continuous hours or more without a problem. All it took in those days was about 20 minutes to flip Weybulls, and off we'd go. I just mentioned the future tricks can be staged ahead of time. Literally less staging tracks needed. If you went back to that thing, you got to have, umpteen tracks at each end to hold all the trains that are coming in. I'm down to 8 tracks. I got 4 for Denver and 4 for Salt Lake, and I could literally take that down to 3 tracks, because that's about all we use anytime during a session. The trains, Henry and I were talking about this yesterday, and he said, the trains always look different when they come out. It's not like here's a train goes into stage and we flip the Weybulls, put the engine on the other end and pull it out. It's the same cars you went in with. Our trains, I call it, they always look fresh. They always look different. And for me, the most important thing in the last few years is it's allowed for an inclusion of an agent position. That's something that's not been modeled much in the hobby. And when I was with FlexBill before Rail Agent, and that was Steve Karras' program, we took that as far as we could, and I had an agent working here, but the job was intensive, because it took me about 5 or 6 hours to stage the railroad, and that really raised its ugly head during the national convention, because I had 3 op sessions, 2 of them back to back, and I was up till like 3 o'clock in the morning trying to get prepared for the next session. So I said, we got to change something. And I'm just going to touch on this because somebody mentioned car cards, and this is not about car cards. We're long beyond car cards. The old staging and the old mole, we would put our cars up here on shelves. These were staged by station where they're going to switch, and so we had, I think there's 7 stations in here, and then we had a certain part of the track was set for bridge traffic stuff where they had no Weibull assignments. We used to put the Waybills in a shelf right here. They were delivered. They were put in there by car type, and so the car that's coming in, you strip the Waybill. We put it on the bottom of the stack, and then we pull the car off the top of the stack and put that in the car. And now it's got her in the Waybill, and it would, or in the car card, excuse me. And it would go up on the storage shelves and be ready for its next run. And so, and when you got kind of in a rut here, you just take these out and you could shuffle them like a deck of cards, and you'd set up the whole random draw process all over again. This worked beautiful. And actually what I'm describing to you right now is what Steve Karras with FlexBill, he took all of that and put it into our Access database, and that became kind of the heart of how we Weibull a day. Of course, you guys are all familiar with these, and so you'd have an empty car card, and then you shove a Weibull in there. And I think what we did use was staging cards, so that here's train 202. It just said I need 8 cars going to Flanagan, and we had them up on the shelf. They were all staged. We didn't care which 8, just pulled them off. And then we had to fill out with 3 Cobras and then 9 Denvers. So there was our train. This train down here is a cold drag, and it had no stop, so it had no waybills or anything like that. And the bridge traffic was the same. You just put the train together, it went from A to B or A to Z, and you put it back on the shelves. Okay. Now what I want to do, if I can, I want to discuss our program here. We're proud of this. It's an amazing program, what we've got set up here. And I would really like to spend a few moments now, if we can, and I'd like to show this to you guys. So what I need to do, in fact, I showed it to you last time, just a little bit. I need to pull up access here. So just bear with me. Is this showing up now? Eric?
You'll need to stop sharing that screen and share your access screen.
Oh, you don't want to see my mugshot. Hell, I'm getting old. Let's see, what screen am I on here? I got to bring it over here. Hang on a second. Sorry, I'm still a rookie at this stuff. Am I sharing it now or not?
It's loading up.
I don't think I got it though.
No, it's started. It just takes a. There we go. You can see access and Rail Agent Plus now.
Okay. So here we are. Let me widen this up. All right. So I have to have a little bit of history here. Steve Pierce, when he was out here some years ago at a Great Basin early on, he really liked what we'd done with the mole so much that he went home and created one on his own layout, the cow. And we collaborated over the years, and he was out here to a Great Basin about 2006 or so, and we had a discussion. I said, you know, Steve, what we need is a one-time use waybill we can throw away, and that's all we need it for. And he was thinking, you know, the same thing. So he goes home all excited. Over several years, he developed an access program for us that we call FlexBill, and I joined up with him in 2010 on FlexBill, and we worked on it literally every night because Steve slept in the day and would call me at night. But anyway, we had a great time with that, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about access, but I'll admit firsthand, I am not a terrific access programmer. I can get along. So I limped along after Steve passed away. He left me the product, and I limped along. And about 2012, I thought, I want to create an agent job. I really want to model that. And so I did in FlexBill, but it was a struggle. Steve programmed everything in Visual Basic and that. Did I lose it? What happened?
Not sure what happened. Try sharing your screen again. Not sure what happened there.
Okay, sorry. Oops, hang on. Okay. Anyway, long story short, we couldn't get it to work, and Steve had programmed everything in Visual Basic, and then I met Chris Kleiner. Chris is one of my operators, and I've known him for years, and he says, Lee, you know, I do this for a living. So we joined forces, and he helped me limp along a little bit with the program. And about 4 years ago, he said, you know, I can't do much more. We really need to change this to a relational database if we really want to make it work. And of course, he explained to me what that was, and I got the drift. And we started that about 4 years ago. And just after we got started making progress, Chris's work took him to Japan about every 6 weeks. So progress was slow. And God bless COVID, because now he was working from home at the first of the year, and we whipped this thing into shape. And we literally just in the last couple of days declared that revision 1, or release 1 is now complete. Now, and so I'm going to go through some screens here because I want to get to the agent screen where most of this happens. These screens here are literally just data input. This is a database that Steve built. It's got all the railroads in America from the 50s on up to today. Plus, there's a couple of freelance ones in there. We use the Tibbs data input screen that was developed by Dan Holbrook. You can read about that in March or July of 1987, an MR. It's just a way of identifying your stations, your gateways, and your spots. Sorry. And that's worked out very well for us. I think Steve and Dan were probably friends. Bob Hamner could elaborate on that, but I think they knew each other, so he chose that. We have car types in there. These are AAR standards, sort of. You can kind of make up your own, which I've done on a couple. Then you got to enter your car data. So all the cars, right now I have 696 cars, and I got 4 more to go on for an even 700. So I'm running about 700 cars, or 700, plus all the coal hoppers that are run throughs. I don't have them in the database, so there's probably another 50 cars there. Industries, you got to put your industries, a station, the industry name. There's a place for a spot code, spot detail, the switching location, facing or trailing point, the capacity of the industry, the car type, and then we have a name for the car type. For those who don't know what XM is, then we print that out as well, or can. And then the commodity shipped and received. From there, we build waybills. This is the heart of the system. This goes back to what I was telling you, where the idea of pulling the waybills out at random and so forth. I think that's where this idea, we got this. So you build a waybill. For this case, it starts at Gateway on the west end of the railroad, which is Salt Lake. It goes from over to Cobre. So it would go out through the CB&Q or through the UCW interchange at Clayton Yard and end up at Tres Pinos on the CB&Q. It goes to Bray Fabrication, the dock. Cobre is station L and the spot is 01. So that's station Cobre and the spot is 01. The capacities here, whether it's an empty or a load, and so forth. Now, the heart of this whole thing is this right here called min-max. So what we do is we put a minimum and a maximum range on the waybills, because once this is all done and all the data is put in, we go to, I'm going to just jump over there real quick. We go to a screen right here and it says generate waybills, and we'll click on that and it will go down through the database and it will pick at random a number between 2 and 4 in this case. And that's how many waybills it will generate for a session. Now, a session for me is 3 months because we do 3 trick sessions. So I will get whatever it generates for a 3-month session. And it generates usually about 400 and some odd waybills. And for 3 months, that equates to about 355 cars that we're going to process or switch in a 3-month period. So that right there is the heart of this whole thing. And that, and then we have some filters up here. Henry, there's a couple of new filters here for you haven't seen yet, but they'll be coming to you this afternoon. You're gonna love it. Am I going too fast, guys? I'm trying to hurry here, and I know you're gonna have questions, so just.
No, you're fine. Keep going, Lee. We're kind of, if people have to drop, they'll drop, but we'll just keep on going.
Okay, I'm gonna keep plugging away. Then we go into waybills, and we have a waybill worksheet here because once you get all this established and you start running your waybill, you balance the traffic flow on the railroad by changing these min-max levels. So we've got them on the screen so we can quickly go down and edit the min-max for each industry until you get your railroad so it's working pretty good for you. You don't want to really, overload anything, but you want to, you got to have a good mix. I'm trying to say, I guess. Then the other one, well, before we come to this, we got yard class tracks. We got a screen for those so we can go to different yards and look at all their class tracks and what they're for. That's very handy, especially for the guy switching, because all he has to do is look at the yard track and he can switch the car to it. We have AAR districts. this is a project for the future, and I'm not really going to go into it, but we have it there. Session data, this is where we can go in and change the dates. I modeled in 1967, and April is where we're starting. So that's the process. And we got a direction, which way the trains are going. And then we have our engine inventory. So we have engine type in here. We have engine class. And then we have engine data. And this is a very handy sheet. This is my Bible. This is all the engines I have. I only run 62 now. Probably got 100 and some odd, but we only need 62 on the railroad. And that's way too many. With a mole operation, you don't need a lot of motor power, but we can rotate it around, and that has all the information for each engine. Okay, once that's done, we then go up, and I showed you how we weigh bill a day. And once it's weigh billed, we then go down to a scanning process, and this would be for the mole. And I'm not sure anything's going to come up in here. I think I'm going to have to go to, these trains are all completed, so I don't think I'm going to come up with anything. Okay, bear with me just a second, please. I got to go change the session date to show what we need. Whoops, wrong place. So what'll happen is the cars will populate in here, are the weigh bills. So you got to think about this, is that in the old operation with the car card and the weigh bill, you took the weigh bill and you shoved it in the car. You're always focused on the car, carried the weigh bill around. We're just the opposite. We generate weigh bills and then we assign cars to them. It's a subtle difference, but it's there. So this is the train TR11. It's a transfer. These are the cars that have been assigned to that train. So the other thing that I haven't showed you yet is getting ahead of myself. I apologize. I got to go back to the trains. I forgot to show you that. So the train's input screen, the road, here's the train name, the trick that it's on, a departure time. We have over here the train route. This is important when we get to the agent screen, because the waypoints are the waypoints that the train stops at. And over here are all the reports that are needed for what this train does. This is a blessing, believe me, you have no idea. Down here, we've got work instructions and so forth. Henry and I have been toying the last week, having fun, and all of our reports now are coming out in a 1945 to 1985 teletype font. We're having fun with that. And then down here, we've got some check boxes for various things. Also, you can come in and you can do extensive blocking for whatever you want for that train. Henry uses this a heck of a lot more than I do, because he's modeling the B&O CT in 1955 in Chicago. And I've been helping him for 6 months getting it ready. And I know more about it than I want to, but it's been really fun. This right here is a min-max level we set for the trains. So I'll have trains that will come in and say, I want to load this to 17 to 20 cars to close out of here, so that when I come over here to the scan process, it takes all the weigh bills that have been generated coming out of the gateway for this train that hopefully comes up here. And it goes randomly, picks a number from high to low. That's how many cars. In this case, it was 19, and it assigned this many weigh bills to that train. And now the agent or the mole will go through and scan the cars in, and they'll populate here as he scans them. We also have a way we can come into a drop down here, and we can actually assign cars if we want to do it that way. And for all of the data sessions we've been holding here, the beta stuff, we can hit this button and it'll automatically assign all cars for the whole session. So that's just for us. One little side note for, this program is built primarily for active staging, which requires a mole and that. But with this screen right here, with this drop down now, I think we got a really good chance using this on passive style railroads. And I think Robbie Spangler is interested to help me with that. And I know I've talked to Mike Burgett and to Mark Stenwick, and both of those guys are looking towards this as well. mainly because the way we can print our switch lists out on the fly. Okay, after that's all done, we now come into the agent screen, and this is where, oh, thanks, Chris. Oh, hang on, I know what I got to do here. I got to go back and change the date. Chris just told me that I haven't completed all the. Okay, this is the screen where the agent will set during a session, he'll run the railroad from here. And this thing is incredible because of what we can do. I wish there was some way I could get rid of these pictures on the right-hand side of my screen because they're taking up space that I need. How do I do that, Eric?
I'm sorry, what are you trying to do?
Well, I got it down the right-hand side of the screen. I got everybody's picture hanging on here and I can't get to my screen.
Oh, just up in the upper left of that, there's like a little hide thumbnail video.
Oh, thank
There
you.
should be a way to hide that or sort of
Which
drag
one
it
is
off.
it? Small. Come on. I punched it. No, that didn't do it.
You
Here,
can
I'll
just,
put it
I mean,
over
you
here.
can just move it around so that
I just put them on the other screen. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay. So anyway, I've got some trains ready to go in here. This is every train. This is every train that the agent needs to work with on session 3, trick 1. And we'll start out with the Flanagan Flyer. Okay. And these are the cars right now that are setting in, come on, in Flanagan, in the Flanagan yard that need to be spotted. These cars have been set out by the connections with the UCW and we've loaded up the yard and now he's ready to build the train. So if we look at this, I can see that Centennial Mills, there's 5 cars in here. I got a capacity of 10 cars and there's 7 cars on spot right here. It tells me that. So I've got to pull at least 3 cars to build room for the 5 coming in, but I will, for argument's sake here, I'll pull that many. And then I know, I'll do a makeup here. And then I know that I can pull, I'm just going to pull the rest of them because I've already looked at this. So when you do a makeup here, so the yard guy is making up his train. That's why it's called a makeup. And I can look up here right now and check out this waypoint. And this will tell me the paperwork that'll be printed out for that train. It's a makeup list. It looks like that. That'll be printed out and go to the crew. Now, since I presented this in October, I've since gone in and we've set the printer up now. So we're running 4.5-inch wide sheets, just like a normal switch list by 11 inches long. So I can print all these the right size and I don't have to use my paper cutter to chop all this stuff up like I used to. Saved me a great deal of time and a lot of paper, believe me. And so what it does is it moved it from this active screen here and it puts it in a hold screen over here. And it just tells me that there's cars in the Flanagan Flyer for points beyond Flanagan Yard, which means they're going to be spotted. So remember in the trains, I talked about a waypoint. So the next waypoint for this is Flanagan. Okay, so these cars over here are going to get Flanagan. And these are the cars right here that are at Flanagan right now in these locations. We had those 7 cars at the elevator and so forth. And I could go in and pull those now before I do the spots, but I'm just going to be brave and do all the spots here. It'll take just a second. So those cars are all spotted, and thanks to Chris, they jumped up here at the top. They used to go in here, but they're now at the top. So there's all my spots, and here's my pulls. So you can see right now that I'm over here. I'm over capacity by 1. Thanks, Chris. I didn't know that happened, but that's great. So now I can come in and say, okay, I gotta pull these. So I'll pull those cars. I'll come down here, make a decision. We got 4 against here. I'll pull one of those. We got a warehouse here. We got 3. I'll pull one of those. And farmer's grain. We got 13 at 12, so we'll drag all of those guys out of here and we'll do a pull on those. And then foster car loading, we got 3 against 3. I better pull one from the dock. And the team track is okay, and we'll pull this TFOC car, or TOFC. So those cars have all been pulled from the industries. They jumped from this point here to this point over here. Now I'm going to show you a waypoint here. I think I can do this and not screw things up. But when we did that, what have I got here? I got the wrong one in here. Okay, so what this did for me is we printed out switch lists, or the switch list to be printed out. So I'll blow that up a little bit so you can see what it looks like. So spot and pull. So these are all spots, and these switch lists are sorted so that all the spots are together and all the poles are together. My crew likes that because at Flanagan, they have to make connections with other trains. So the guys like to know they got to go out and do the Denver guys first. And so they have them sorted in here. So the Denvers and Salt Lakes are separated from the spots and from the spots, excuse me. Now, the next waypoint, because we have the spots and we have the poles all done. The next one is Flanagan Yard. So the poles now become a set out in Flanagan Yard, and these will be picked up by UCW connecting trains east and west. And we're going to set those out now. And so those cars have now been set out right here in Flanagan Yard. I could go to this waypoint. Did I not click it? I don't know what's happening here. I'm not getting any response. I can't show you guys, I'm sorry. Anyway, it would show me the set out list for this, and maybe I don't know why it's not coming up. It could be because of Zoom. Also, that a really nice report that we've generated is this yard turnover. So I can go in at any time during a session and I can pull yard turn for any of the yards on the railroad. It will give me an update at that particular point on what's going on. So there's Clayton Yard, there's East Yard. East Yard's pretty heavy. We got 2 of them in there, a lot of cars. There's the Flanagan Yard we just did. So these cars here are on this turnover report right here. But I can pull that at any time. If you got some confusion, the yard guy wants to look at his yard, I can go pull that and he'll have a list of what's in his yard. Very handy. Also, we have another one here that's called industry turnover. So that anytime I can pull an industry turnover and I can go out and look at what's each station on the railroad. Here's Cobre. So here's what would be spotted or setting at Cobre right now. And I can just go through, there's Flanagan, cars we just spotted, plus the ones we left. There's Hamilton, Jigs, Lone Pine, so forth and so on, all the way down the railroad. That you can pull at any time and it will give you the data that's current at that particular time you pull that. Now, that train is now completed its run. We got 3 out of 3. We would then go in and make that complete and then go into the next train. This probably doesn't have much work to it. Not sure there's any right now. No, there's not. So that one we just, well, wait a minute. Let me see. Got to check the Watercress Yard. Yeah, take it back. There are. So I got to make a pull here. This guy's he's a through train, but he has work. He doesn't have any way bills assigned to him when he leaves the mole, but he does pick up along the way. So that train will pick up the Salt Lake cars because he's a Salt Lake bound train. They end up here. Let me see. I should have a pickup list here just so you guys can see what that looks like. So there's a pickup list. that would be attached to the wheel report for the crew so they know what they have to pick up. From there, we go to Salt Lake, and the cars are then set out, capture them, and you set them out. And they've now completed their run. They're back in the mole. The mole will tear the train down. He'll put the cars on the shelf. And then the Salt Lake cars that came in, even though they have a waybill move, their last move still assigned, when we go to scan that car in future op sections, when he scans that, the moment he scans that and they see it has a previous waybill, it will delete that move and it will assign the new move. So we never have to worry about going in and deleting all this stuff out of the database. Chris's brain power has taken us to that point, and I appreciate that very much. That train is now complete. How am I doing on time? Am I doing all right? I'm a little over.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Like I said, if people are dropping off, just keep going until you're done. And people.
All right, I'm about done. I'm showing you about all the train styles are. We have one. This is a transfer. Oh, it's complete. Can't do it. Let me run down here. I'll do this other transfer out of sequence. A transfer is these trains are pre-staged in the mole, and they will come out on schedule. And this is what's literally going to fill up East Yard for us. Okay. So he would come in, he would do a set out. And those cars are now set out in East Yard, and yeehaw, because we haven't moved any cars out of there. The car count at East Yard right now is 106. I can tell you that's maxed out more than a few cars, but I took it out of sequence. So, and that train would be complete. I know I was rushed here, but I don't want to bore you with this guys, but we're extremely proud of this because I tell you what it's done for me. I can now have an agent on the railroad doing this job real time during a session. When you get proficient at this, you can literally, you can do a train in less than 2 minutes, put it together, and then print the paperwork and have it ready for the crew.
You said you've got barcodes on the bottom of your train cars, right?
Yeah, barcodes on the bottom of the train cards. So the mole can be doing that, but the agent in here now can sit at this desk and literally prepare paperwork real time. And this is a dream I've had with this whole process. And I'll tell you what it did for me is I had, like I said, probably 5 to 6 hours between sessions. And with this now and the forms, the way we've got them, and I got some pre-printed schedules now, I don't have to print each time. My setup time for the railroad has gone from 6 hours or 5 hours to absolutely 0. I have no preparation to do to get ready for a session. We come down, turn the lights on, turn the layout on, sit down, and you can build the first train and lickety split, and you're off and going. And we're running them, and everything's just working fine. So we're excited for COVID to leave so we can have an op session and proof all this stuff out. Now, Henry Freeman's on here, and Henry, we've been friends for a number of years, but Henry come to me 4 or 5 years ago. We were actually at Doug Tagzol's, and he said, Lee said, do you think we could get FlexBill to work on my layout? And I said, yeah. I said, stupid me. I said, sure, not a problem. Well, little did I know what the hell the B&OCT was all about. But I can tell you right now, we would have never been able to pull it off in FlexBill the way he wanted it. It wouldn't have worked. It was just there was too much hard code that was married to my layout, and it was just hard to get the data together. And so I was probably June or May or whenever it was. We got a copy of this to Henry, and Henry literally became our guinea pig and putting data in from the beginning. My data was all migrated in from FlexBill, so I didn't have to go through that process. Henry had to touch every screen on here, and sometimes he'd call me up and we'd get kind of tough with each other, but we muddled through. And I think Henry would attest today. In fact, I know he would. We just talked before this today, and we're both so excited about this because of the mole and the way we can run our sessions. And literally, you can look at your railroad. I mean, you come up here and pull up a flipping yard report anytime you need it. I mean, it's incredible. I never had that in FlexBill, never could. And I'm not knocking FlexBill. It's just that it ran its course. And it's a great program. It still is for what it does. But that's kind of why I retired it. It was Steve's baby, and I didn't want to carry on with this and call it FlexBill. So that's where we came up with Rail Agent Plus, or we call it RAP for short. So I'm open for questions or throwing rocks at me, whatever you prefer.
Sure. Well, let's see. Bruce is asking about how the cars scanned in the mole. As we said, on the bottom, you have a very small barcode that your barcode reader is able to read, right?
Yeah, and then when you read it, of course, it's just a keyboard entry into the screen, and so it's just scanning. It's there, so it's very easy to do.
How do you put the cars on the rails? I thought I saw it looked like you had some re-railers there in the mole, right?
In the mole, I've got 4 or 6 re-railers on each track. Okay. So very easy to put the cars on and off. Now, I will say one thing, because this question will come up. Yeah, the cars get beat up a little bit. Okay, I got a box in here that I keep all the details that fall off, and I realize that, but that doesn't bother me, because for me it's about operation, and the cars for me are the actors that pull this whole thing off. If they get a little collateral damage, so be it. You know, it's like nobody's ever left saying, hey, your cars are all beat to shit. It doesn't happen. But I'll tell you what, the newer cars like Exact Rail, and the toughest car on the market that I found are Katie hoppers. I tell you, those suckers are like iron. You can't bust those parts off. They look just like the day I put them on there. So anyway.
Got another question here. I'm gonna paraphrase. Basically, how do you reconcile the database against the layout in terms of, okay, all the cars are where they're supposed to be and so on?
Okay, that's this little report right here. We have 2 reports. There's the yard turnover report. So at the end of the op session, we will print a yard turnover for the yards and give it to the yard masters. They know what to do. They've done this for years now in FlexBill. They used to take out a tray that had the waybills in it and reconcile it. Now they'll get a report. Here's the yard turnover, and each one of them will get an industry report turnover, and that's how we reconcile where everything is supposed to be.
Got it. Okay. Just looking through the comments, lots of great complimentary comments about what you've done. I think it's the other thing is, if you and your development crew get to the point where you want to share this, let me know and we can make space on the OPSIG website, or at least put a link to where you guys have the software if you're making it available for other people to use. So
that's under debate right now, because you know, it ends up in my hands, and as much as I love all you guys on here, I don't want to be a babysitter to everybody that you know gets this product if we do that.
I fully understand that. So,
but you know, our part would be to write instructions well enough behind it, which we don't have right now, that would help you through the process. Although myself, I'm sure Henry would, if we put some of these out on the market, that we could help you through it. I do have Mike Burkett and Stenwick. Both of those guys are interested in this, and we'll see what happens. It's not 100%. Those guys have always been in part of the little group here that we're going to do this with. Eric, I don't know if this is kosher with you, and you tell me. If not, it's fine. But I was going to put out, if anybody would like to go in depth on this with me, I can share a Zoom. We've done this before. We don't have to take your time here in the OPSIG. If they want to get me direct, I'll be glad to sit down and we can do a Zoom conference and go through this if you're really interested.
That's perfectly fine. I'll add that to the note.
All you have to do is, yeah, call me or just email me and we can set this up and we could spend, some quality time here. I'm going fast here and go through all this. If you're interested in this, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure there are people who have similar setups who might be interested. But what I'll do is I'll add a note on the past events page to basically, so that we're not blasting your email and phone everywhere.
That would be great.
If they want to get in touch with you, they can email me direct and I'll get them to you. That kind of protects your contact information a little bit. So
okay, one last thing here is this is a new screen I forgot to show. It's called car movement history, and what we can do is we can come in and look at any car on the railroad, and we can track the history of its movements over, I don't know what period of time Chris told me it was, I've forgotten. But this can be handy if you misplace a car, you can come in here and backtrack of where it was last and say, okay, this is where it needs to be. So there's all kinds of little goodies like this that I haven't had time to show you. I apologize.
There was one last question. How many engines and how many cars on the railroad?
There are 62 engines right now, and there are 696 cars.
Got it.
I had about 750, and I went through what would you call it? A reduction process of last month, and I got rid of a bunch of old cars that were really beat up. A lot of the old Athearn blue box stuff, they've run their course, and I got rid of some of those. And we had the opportunity to pick up a bunch of Acura cars, so I did that. So anyway.
All righty. Well, I appreciate everybody who still have more than half the people stuck all the way to the end. So I appreciate everybody who stuck around. Thanks again, Lee, for presenting a second round, taking a look at your layout and this software that you guys have created. And
Eric?
Go ahead, sir.
Hey, Eric?
Yeah, go ahead, Lee.
Okay, I got one more clinic in the bag if you ever need me, and that's where I could go through just a 30-minute and show you some of the things I've done over the years for scenery and things like that I use. I got one that I call Scenery in a Can that I use spray foam installation. I'd like to present that, or if you need it, I'm available.
Got it. All righty. Well, like I said, we'll have the replay up later tonight. We'll get that shared out. We'll see everybody in a couple of weeks. As I said, if you have ideas for discussion points for our open forum, please forward them to me, editor@opsig.org. If you're an OPSIG subscriber, which we encourage everybody to be, the January issue will actually be mailing, I think it mailed last week, should be getting in your hands. The digital copy will be available on the 15th. Always looking for people to write articles. We're currently starting to do copy edit on the April issue, if you can believe that. It's a long process. But like I said, if you have an operations related article, I'd love to hear from you. Again, editor@opsig.org. In the meantime, we'll see everybody in 2 weeks. Thanks for attending.
Thanks, Eric.